He criticises his country's allies as world leaders gather in Lithuania. The future of Thames Water. Company bosses promising change as they're summoned to appear before MPs. And Europe's heatwave. Temperatures soar across the continent, with Greece, Italy and Spain set to swelter in potentially record-breaking heat. A very good morning to you. The TV presenter at the heart of the BBC crisis is facing a series of fresh allegations today. The Starr, who still remains unnamed, is now facing increased pressure to reveal his identity as police investigate whether there's a case to be answered. Let's just take a quick look back at what we know so far. Well, on Saturday, The Sun claimed that the presenter paid £35,000 for sexually explicit images over a 3-year period dating back to 2020. Yesterday, it was reported by the BBC that a second person was sent abusive and expletive-filled messages as the presenter allegedly pressured the person to meet up. Today's edition of The Sun alleges the presenter broke lockdown rules with another individual in February 2021 at a time when COVID restrictions prevented people from meeting anyone outside their household bubble. And another individual claims the presenter sent them creepy messages on Instagram when they were 17 years old, containing love heart emojis and kisses. Well, our arts and entertainment correspondent Katie Spencer joins us live from outside BBC headquarters in central London. And Katie, I guess a new part of this is these extra allegations, new individuals involved. But the other part is the growing pressure on this BBC presenter to reveal themselves from his colleagues.
Yeah, growing pressure by the hour, really, and many of his colleagues, past and present, are now weighing in on this and giving their thoughts. We know now that John Sopel, a former face at the BBC within news, he has said he has apparently spoken to this unnamed presenter and said that this man in question is said to be extremely angry about how this has been covered in The Sun and feels certainly that the coverage that The Sun has provided has been an exercise really in digging dirt on him. It is the claim really that John Sopel makes, what the presenter is alleging. But also Jeremy Vine, who we've been talking about the tweets that he put out last night, basically saying that he believes that this unnamed presenter should in effect identify himself now because of the attention that it's generating for the BBC, all of the bad coverage that this has led to for the BBC itself. And this morning, Jeremy Vine, while not only working for Radio 2, he also has a Channel 5 show, of course, and he's, again, sort of doubling down, if you like, really, and he's opened his show today by saying that he believes that it is untenable, really, for this BBC presenter to not name himself, but also the fact that he has said that this BBC presenter can't really argue that it isn't in the public interest. I mean, 4 allegations now. While these allegations aren't criminal, they don't appear to be criminal, it does certainly speak to a pattern of behaviour from this presenter. Do you have to be perfect to be in the public eye? Well, no, but there are certain roles, certainly, where the behaviour of the individual matters more than others. And we know, of course, one of these allegations now relates to breaking COVID rules. The BBC, they were, of course, the ones that explained the rules to everyone. They were, the news channel were the ones that called out figures like Dominic Cummings when they broke the rules. So certainly for this presenter to be caught up in this, there is an element of hypocrisy that you're bringing into this. But also take the person away from this, the way the BBC has handled this is still coming under so much criticism, particularly when in terms of the 7 weeks it took them to fully get round to talking to the presenter in question. It makes them seem not only slow but really incompetent in terms of how they've handled this.
Spencer, as ever, thanks so much for that. By the way, if you scan the QR code on your screen right now, you can listen to the latest edition of the Sky News Daily podcast. Today, Kimberly Leonard is looking at the crisis at the BBC as the unnamed presenter at the centre of the row faces those new claims. You can subscribe there wherever you get your podcasts. Also, to mention still to come this hour on Sky News Today with Wilfred Frost, as more allegations emerge from the BBC. We'll be speaking to the talent manager, Jonathan Shalit. We'll also have a special report on the ground in Ukraine. Our international correspondent, John Sparks, has been speaking to a volunteer who's been fighting on the front lines. A live report from him. We'll also have a live report from Ed Conway outside the Bank of England shortly following Andrew Bailey's press conference, which has just wrapped up. But more, first of all, on the NATO conference, Ukraine's President Zelensky has been increasing the pressure on NATO to give answers on when Ukraine will be able to join the alliance. The Ukrainian leader spoke to journalists this morning as he arrived for the final day of a security summit in Vilnius. Yesterday, he said it's, quote, absurd and unprecedented that there is no timetable for his country to join the alliance. Meanwhile, the UK government has indicated that G7 countries will sign a new agreement today that will commit to the long-term security of Ukraine.
I think for today, three priority questions. The first one is weapon packages, new weapon packages for supporting our army on the battlefield, and that is one. The second, I think, the invitation to NATO, and the third will speak today and fight for this. It's security guarantees for Ukraine on the way to NATO.
Let's go live to the NATO summit in Vilnius. Our political editor, Beth Rigby, is there and has been there for the last 24 hours, covering it all for us. Beth, it's so interesting to hear this sort of disappointment from Zelensky on what is progress on something that they have wanted for quite some time. Is there a little bit of annoyance from other members of NATO that he's not more warm about this, or an understanding of the very difficult position, of course, that everybody is in?
I think it's probably the latter rather than the former, not least because for the 31-strong alliance, I think there's a sense here that they want to show absolute unity in the face of Russian aggression and make it clear that they will, to quote the Prime Minister on the way over, show Putin that he can't wait it out, that allies are in there for the long term. But of course, there are divisions within that 31-strong security alliance about the timing of Ukraine joining the NATO alliance. There are countries like UK and Poland who are, and the Baltic states and those on the eastern flank that are perhaps more enthusiastic. And then what we've seen is caution from Germany and the US. And we've ended up with a statement, a declaration saying that there will be membership when conditions are met, but no timetable, which is what Zelensky wanted, and certainly no invitation, which is what he was calling for too. So, of course, there is fallout from that. But the focus today, and President Zelensky is going around having a series of bilaterals. He's just come out from a bilateral with PM Sunak, who said at the top of that, it's good to see you here where you are being, where you belong. We've made some real progress. He's now in with Prime Minister Trudeau of Canada. And what we are expecting later is, as you were saying, this G7 accord about more long-term security arrangements, more provision of military aid and economic aid. And this really was discussed very heavily at the G7 summit in Japan, in Hiroshima, where we were earlier this year. That was the moment where allies agreed to provide Ukraine with those F-16 fighter jets and train pilots, a long-term ask of President Zelensky. So we will get that accord later today to see what those long-term security relationships will be and what packages will be put into place. Really, Wilfred, if you think about it, it's a kind of buffer zone where NATO is saying we cannot give you membership now while you're still at war, but we will collapse some of the membership requirements, the membership plan, in order to perhaps give you accession quickly after the war is over. That's what they did in terms of letting Sweden and Finland in. They didn't make them go through rigorous membership tests and conditionality. But NATO allies will not give Ukraine membership while it's still in conflict, because Article 5 quite simply means that all NATO members might have to get more heavily involved in the war. They're not prepared to do that, but watch instead for these other security guarantees later today.
Beth, as ever, thanks so much for that. And by the way, coming up this hour, 10:35, we'll be hearing live from President Zelensky, as well as NATO's Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg, who'll be speaking at the summit, a joint press conference, about 10:35. Now, Boss at the UK's biggest water company has told MPs that staff were scared to be honest about the problems facing Thames Water. MPs are questioning representatives from the water supplier about its financial problems after Sky News first reported that the government is preparing, or was preparing, to step in if the company collapsed. Well, Thames Water has faced numerous challenges in recent years, including how to repay its £14 billion of debts, record fines as well for releasing raw sewage into rivers, and criticism over how much it has paid senior executives. Here's a take from the parliamentary hearing.
One of the things that we've done over the past couple of years, particularly under Sarah's leadership, has been to really change the values and behaviours and the culture across the company. I think historically we were a company in which bad news travelled upwards too slowly. I think people were afraid actually to say how things really were on the ground. And I think that's one of the things that we've achieved actually over the past couple of years, has really been to turn that around, and it's really helping us to be honest actually within the company about the challenges that we face so that we can really address them and make improvements.
Sticking with business, major UK banks are strong enough to handle an economic downturn, but small businesses and households are being squeezed by higher interest rates. That's what a new report from the Bank of England has found this morning. Our economics and data editor, Ed Conway, joins us live from central London, outside the Bank of England, where he's just been posing questions to Andrew Bailey, the governor. And Ed, just the first question. I mean, this is relatively, famous last words perhaps, but a relatively positive report on the state of UK's banks despite various economic problems.
There's definitely some kind of moderately reassuring news here, which is that when you look at the total state of household finances, compare it to their incomes, you're not necessarily, even with interest rates going up to the really quite high levels that we're expecting in the next year or so, up to potentially 6.5% even if that happens, they say that the total burden of debt that households are facing will still be considerably lower than we saw in 2008. So not as bad as in the last financial crisis. However, the concern is that you do have large numbers of people. That is the aggregate picture, and that kind of is what they're most interested about here at the Bank of England. But you do have pockets of people, and in fact large pockets of people, millions of households who are facing big increases in their mortgages, and they did provide a number suggesting that there will be 1 million households who see their mortgages increase by £500 a month or more over the course of the next few years. It's a relatively gradual process, but it ratchets up as time goes on. So that pain from higher mortgages ratcheting up and now affecting millions of households. As I say, with 1 million households facing a particularly big increase, £6,000 a year or more. For many, it's considerably more. But the bank says that, broadly speaking, the financial system as a whole, and this does matter, they need to look not just at what's happening with interest rates, but the broader financial system. They say the financial system as a whole is in a healthy place. They've done their stress tests on the banks, working out how they fare if there were a serious financial crisis, and they look like they're in an okay position. So, broadly speaking, some good news amid this constant stream, unfortunately, that we've had recently of the bad news as well.
Ed, thanks so much for that. Should mention as well, sterling today is essentially flat after what's been a very strong run of late. The pound against the dollar, 129.3. Now, returning to the crisis at the BBC and the further allegations that have emerged, let's bring in Jonathan Shallett, chairman at the Intertalents Rights Group. Jonathan, thanks for joining us again on this story. It's really great to get your take as the story evolves over time. Earlier in the week, and I actually forget exactly which day it was that you joined me, you said you did feel one way or another, even though there's clearly more details that we need to learn about this, that this presenter's career was over. Is that still your conclusion as more things have come to light?
I think his career in terms of the role he has at the BBC is certainly over, yes. As to what he does beyond that, he's still of an age where he can continue to work, and the world's very forgiving, and I'm sure he'll go on to do other things, but it's not going to be in the frontline role he's got at the BBC.
I mean, a big part of, I think, your conclusion towards that earlier in the week was the fact that there was, at the time, a clear suggestion that something criminal had taken place. Clearly,
I've never said something criminal took place. I simply don't know. I mean, it's not for me to judge.
No, I totally understand that. My point is, sorry, I didn't finish my question, but if it emerges that nothing criminal has ever taken place, does that change things significantly, or it still leads to the end of a career?
Well, I think there are two issues. There's the criminality issue, which the police will progress in a normal way, like they would for anybody, irrespective of fame, notoriety, or being a private citizen, versus what this individual is alleged to have done and how it works in keeping with the trusted role they got with the British public. And when the individual's name comes out and what he's alleged to have done, which some of it certainly seems to be true, because there's too much has been alleged, some of it, for all of it not to be true. It may not be nearly as bad as been alleged, and of course, he will have some his own narrative to put across. And I think that's also important. Until he's had a chance to put his own narrative across, no one should make a final judgment, because there are always two sides to a story. And at the moment, whilst he's keeping his name from going public to everybody, albeit a lot know, he's equally not able to say his side of the story and what happened. So I think one can only make a final judgment as when we know the true facts from all sides. At the moment, as you say, the story is moving, so the truth isn't clearly known. So I think in conclusion to that bit of the equation, the BBC are right not to name him, because I don't think it's for them to name him. He's a private citizen also. What is alleged to have happened took place in his own private time. And I think there's a question whether employers should be naming employees who might step outside a moral code, but if they haven't broken the law and it's done outside the environment of the place they work for, there are big questions as to what rights an employer has to name an employee.
I'm interested on this point about naming him, because you know talent presenters incredibly well, and Jeremy Vine has been the latest and most high-profile colleague of this anonymous presenter to say he thinks he should come out. I mean, there's a side of this which is it's unfair on his colleagues, but the comments coming from Jeremy Vine this morning on his show saying, quote, "I think it's better for him if he does it. I think he needs to. He'll have to answer this. It's just building and there's no response. He must have a defense," etc. These are just comments he's making at the moment on his own show. What would be your advice if you represented this anonymous presenter?
Well, I agree with Jeremy. I think the presenter would serve his best interests by naming himself. Of course, it may be the BBC who are paying his salary have said you can't name yourself, so that's also criteria for him, because he wants to keep his salary going for as long as possible. However, Jeremy Vine is partly saying what he does because Jeremy's had the deep unpleasantness of being named by some wrongly, has had other presenters. But I think they're two separate issues. Those people who have been named wrongly on social media, and whether the individual who is the right name should come and name himself. That's the challenge of social media. Terrible things happen. People get named. I remember, some years ago when Philip Schofield gave on This Morning that bit of paper to the Prime Minister with names on it, and there have been people, including John Burker's wife, Sally Burker's wife, who was sued for naming people on social media and lost the case. So I think people who are naming people on social media, that in itself is a crime. That itself is totally wrong. But you can't say someone else, the correct person, should name themselves because other people are being named wrongly. That would be sort of two wrongs make a right. And again, the individual has got a family and his own journey to go on in terms of decision making. So he needs to also make his own decision for his own reasons. But I think I personally would be self-served best by naming himself, because the name will get out. And every morning it doesn't get out, he must be waking up to sort of the worry it will get out today. But so I would end that worry to myself and name myself, so at least I can then put my own narrative out there. I'm sure he has got a narrative. I don't know if that narrative will stand up or be believed or be accepted, but he has a narrative, and I assume he'd want to get his narrative out there.
Another question I had for you, and given your position as a leading agent, it's quite a hypothetical question, so you might not be able to answer it. But In light of the fact that in the Philip Schofield scandal, quite a big moment was when his agents fired him. What would you be doing towards this person if he was your client? Would you be considering doing that as well, or is it different because there's perhaps not that aspect of the client lying directly over a number of years to their agent, as was the case with Philip Schofield?
I think it'd be wrong of me, and ICE are doing their own investigation into that, and I think it'd be wrong of me to comment on the rights and wrongs of Philip Schofield and his agent parting company. I remember some years ago, there was a legendary agent called Jan Kennedy, who represented really top people like Bruce Forsyth, like Morecambe Wise, real legendary people, deeply respected throughout the industry. And one of her clients was Rolf Harris. And on the opening days of the court case, you actually saw her on television accompanying her client to the court case because Rolf Harris had assured her it was totally untrue, the allegations made against him. And as the court case began to unravel, she, like everybody else, learned that Rolf Harris had lied and he was clearly heading towards being guilty. And clearly she immediately parted company with him. I think I was going to mention the name and I hold myself back, not doing it accidentally. If you are the agent for this individual and you're a long-term friend of his, and you believe what he said and he's sworn to he's telling the truth, I think you stick by your friends and clients until it becomes very obvious they've lied to you. So I think it's not an easy question to answer. Would you fire your client on the spot? Clearly, as soon as you realise your clients lied to you, you'd probably end the relationship. But I don't know what the client said to their agent and vice versa. So I can't predict on that particular talent and their agency relationship. I know from my perspective, we have a moral compass. We have had clients in the past we've let go of who've crossed those boundaries. It would be unfair of me to name clients because that's a private relationship we have with that particular client. But I also stick by clients when they have problems because sometimes, well, if I've worked in a long time, I don't want to cause them unnecessary harm by dropping them. It's a difficult one, and there is no right and wrong. It's about the individual relationship.
No, a very difficult question to answer, Jonathan, but you did so very well and gave us great context despite these big grey areas with nothing, of course, proven at this point, let alone the person not named. Jonathan Challet, as ever, thanks so much for joining.
I think one thing, I do think trial by media is wrong. I do think a lot of being said publicly, and I do think where the BBC are being correct, they're investigating properly before making statements. I mean, employees are saying, tell us what's going on. The problem is we're telling 30,000 people what's going on, which is how many work for the BBC. That email would go into the public domain very quickly, would read things into it. So I think the BBC are correct in establishing the truth and all the facts before making a pronouncement.
No, absolutely. Jonathan, thank you very much. Jonathan Challet from Intertalent Rights Group. You're watching Sky News Today with Wilfred Frost. Still to come. Sky News has been speaking with volunteers fighting in Ukraine. We'll bring you our coverage from the front line with a live report as well.
Our app gives you the very best of Sky News wherever you are. Breaking news, videos and analysis.
Evidence of the crisis.
Podcasts, watching us live.
Take you live to Manchester Crown Court.
Sky News Daily Podcast.
All in one place. And all at just the touch of a screen. The Sky News app. Download for free now.
Looking for a new way to stay refreshed and hydrated? Look no further than iRange Hydration Drink. iRange is perfect for any situation where you need a little pick-me-up. It's low in calories and has a delicious orange flavor that you will love. So don't wait any longer. Grab a can of iRange today and start enjoying the refreshing. Buy online at irange.co.uk. Looking for a new way to stay refreshed and hydrated? Look no further than iRange Hydration Drink. iRange is perfect for any situation where you need a little pick-me-up. It's low in calories and has a delicious orange flavor that you will love. So don't wait any longer. Grab a can of iRange today and start enjoying the refreshing. Buy online at irange.co.uk.
As a team, we're not really surprised by anything these days.
So there's reports of a male who's been stabbed repeatedly in the leg. Here in the diverse industrial heart of England, we hear from people who have real stories to tell.
Parents are going to complain like this, and schools had better get ready for it.
These protests are being organised primarily by people who aren't parents at the school.
So some patients aren't going to survive this.
We have to be prepared that patients will die from this illness.
Staff here are currently identifying wards that could be turned into areas where patients with COVID-19 could be isolated. The River Severn is still rising, and people here in Ironbridge have been told it could go up by another metre before it starts to go back down.
It's going to be a long, slow process of putting it back together again.
We aim to be the best and most trusted place for news.
Welcome back. As NATO leaders wrangle in Lithuania, the fighting rages on in Ukraine. In Ukraine's counter-offensive, which has been slower than hoped, it's also proven more costly in terms of human lives. Well, for months, the front lines were largely static, but Ukrainians say they've now retaken around 100 square miles of territory in their counter-offensive. The main pushes have been south of Zaporizhia and in the east around Bakhmut and towards Donetsk, although progress has been slower than many hoped. Well, Sky's international correspondent John Sparks has been speaking with one volunteer, an Irishman, who's been fighting on the front lines in the east of the country and sent this report.
Got to be unloaded. Unloaded? Yeah, unloaded bag.
There was little fanfare on departure for a pair of foreign fighters who'd come to Ukraine's aid. Hundreds, if not thousands, of international combatants have been fighting on the Ukrainian side, but this small group has had enough, beginning what will be a long journey home.
We're stuck!
The Ukrainian counter-offensive has struggled as the Russians deploy artillery and mines to slow them down. The fighting has been brutal, although no one was killed here. For the foreign fighters, there is a refuge near the front, and we met an Irishman here who's been fighting in Ukraine for the past 17 months. What is it like right now on the front line?
Zero on zero line, it's horror. It's horror. There is just, it's a genocide, it's slaughter. There is just people dead everywhere. Like Russians dead, Ukrainian people dead, Ukrainian soldiers dead, just left there.
Rhys Byrne says he was almost killed a few weeks ago as his multinational unit prepared to attack the line.
We were told there's a Russian trench line, and our job is to go into the trenches and clear them out, hold them until auxiliary units come, and then we go home.
They were taken to a staging post, and when a tank approached in the distance, they assumed it was one of theirs.
But you're doing all right, though.
Yeah, I'm good.
It wasn't. Soldiers took cover in the woods, hoping that assistance would arrive.
Any station, this is Bravo. Can anybody hear me? Can anybody read me? Go!
As light fell, a Ukrainian truck pulled up, and the survivors scrambled into the back. But they'd been spotted by a Russian tank.
Go to Humvee! Let's go! No!
That's terrifying. When you see a big T-72 coming for you and you're in a Humvee pickup, yeah, it's like a hot knife through butter. You're finished. So again, all of us are screaming, drive the Humvee, drive the Humvee. I was going mental.
The incident would prove the final straw for Byrne and a Danish colleague who packed their bags after 17 months of living on the edge. But they admit their memories will never leave them.
John joins me live now from Dnipro in East Ukraine. And John, I mean, an extraordinary report there. And obviously, We're playing it on the day that the NATO summit continues, and the president of Ukraine has been disappointed and angered that he didn't get a more clear timeline of when his country would be able to join NATO. I just wonder whether that sort of news reaches people where you are, and whether the reaction is something similar, or whether they just have much more important things to focus on in the short term.
It's a good question, I think. People are disappointed. People are behind the war effort here. I mean, they are remarkably united, actually, and they are disappointed to a certain extent that Ukraine has not been admitted as a full member of NATO. I think that they would share Zelensky's disappointment. I mean, I think there is a realization in government here that the Americans, the Germans, the French, they are not going to make Ukraine a full member of the organization. Clearly, Joe Biden and others don't want to escalate this conflict with Russia, the war with Russia. If they bring Ukraine into the bloc, then the entire bloc is then obligated to come to Ukraine's direct aid. And at the moment, they're coming to Ukraine's indirect aid. They're not doing it directly. And I think what they'll be looking for, I think Zelensky certainly will use this disappointment in his bilateral meetings that he'll be holding today. He's already met with Olaf Scholz, the German chancellor. He's got a long-term commitment from him for advanced weaponry, for training, for Patriot missiles, for example, these sophisticated air defense weapons. He'll have a one-on-one with Joe Biden later, with Trudeau from Canada, with Rishi Sunak as well, and he'll be looking for these long-term commitment deals, basically. And I think the other thing that NATO have done to mollify him in a way is that they'll have this inaugural meeting as well of this NATO-Ukraine Council. It's basically like giving Ukraine a permanent seat to the side table. So it means that Zelensky will be able to call a meeting of his NATO allies. He'll be able to consult with them. He'll have the right to do that. And I think actually his language today is not being quite as less annoyance. Put it that way. I think he's been mollified to a certain extent. But see that piece. You see what it is like on the Eastern Front. It is a really tough fight. The Russians are really well dug in. They've used, for example, extensive minefields to negate, to a certain extent, the advanced weaponry that has been supplied so far. A Challenger tank, a Leopard tank, it's inoperable in a large minefield. So, Zelensky, in a way, see this as Zelensky saying, we need more help and we need it now.
Well, John, thank you so much for that take from the east of Ukraine. And we are likely to hear more from President Zelensky, and whether that tone overnight has softened a little bit, as John was reporting. In just a moment, he's due to give a press conference alongside the NATO Secretary General, Jens Stoltenberg.
SendWave is a money transfer app that is used by people all over the world to send money to their loved ones in Africa. With SendWave, you can send money to Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. And the best part is, SendWave is absolutely commission-free. Our exchange rates are excellent. You can see for yourself by checking them out on our website. So how do you use SendWave? SendWave is an app that you can download onto your phone from the App Store or Google Play Store. The app is free to download. After downloading it, just open the app and enter your name, email, and phone number. That's it. You're good to go. Make sure you use the promo code SR. S for Starr, R for Radio. This promo code will give you £5 free credit to send to Africa on your first transaction. Your money will be delivered to your recipient within seconds. Feel free to call me on 0749 7377 647 at any time. I'll be happy to tell you all about SendWave and help you in any way I can. Remember to use the promo code SR for £5 free credit. Medasse.
Hi everyone, it's your girl BB Clemens, the author of How to Go From Employee to Entrepreneur and the host of your weekly business show, BB Means Business, the show where we discuss everything you ever wanted to know about business but you were afraid to ask. How do I start my business? How do I raise the finance? How do I grow my business? Where am I going to find my customers? Join me every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. on Starr Radio UK to get all the information and tips that you need to become a successful entrepreneur and become financially free. Remember, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature online.
Are you looking for the fastest, reliable, and trustworthy door-to-door shipment company? Well, look no further. When was the last time your family received a shipment back in Ghana on time and in time? You are not sure? Well, Lamb Shippers, we pride ourselves with being the fastest, reliable, and trustworthy shippers you can use. You are assured of a prompt pickup anywhere in the UK by our personnel. They also make sure your items are well packaged to get to its destination in time. When it comes to door-to-door shipment, look no further. Well, Lamb Shippers, contact us on 07939009321 or 07498911820. Or you can visit our website www.welllamp.co.uk. You can also drop us a mail, info@welllamp@gmail.com. Well Lamp Shippers, fast, reliable, and trustworthy.
Hi there. Are you dreaming of owning your own house in Ghana? Then you will need a well-documented piece of land that is free from troubles. I highly recommend My Africa Property for any size of land that you will need. With My Africa Property, lands are available in Pram, Sopoli, Tohenia, Ogome, Dodova, Winneba, and many other locations at affordable prices. These locations are about an hour away from the airport, only 35 minutes from the motorway, 10 minutes drive from Central University College, 10 minutes drive to the beach, and close to Pram Senior High School and Ghana Men's Soccer Center of Excellence. For more details, visit our website www.myafricaproperty.com or call our UK office on 0208 123 2523. For our US and Canada offices, call us on +1 585 184 994145. You can also email us at ghana@myafricaproperty.com.
Tune in to On Point here on Starr Radio UK with Empress Regina every Monday at 5 p.m. GMT. Looking forward to your company.
Check me out. He tells me my energy is making him tired.
Yes!
How do you get the energy to do that?
I've been told that I have a lot of energy, but my goodness, I think today I have met my match, people. I have met my match, Miss Suzanne. Wow, amazing.
One of the things that's the start of the darkness. The whole of darkness.
So what did that
myself and the world will adjust. And 2019,
forget the proverbial boardroom. Join me, Simone Frazier, on the CEO, the program that gives you the driving seat over your life. Every Tuesday, 8 p.m. only on Starr Radio.
Broadcasting live online. Turn it up.
It's your man. Bekutu, show them you got the cocoa set. Ladies and gentlemen, it's your boy Harry Song, aka Mr. Songs. This is the Kingmaker, Baba for the girls. We're here. This is Starr Radio. Don't go nowhere. UK, London. We they call them London for home. For here, we they call them London. And that's how you know. Just have fun and stay blessed.
All around the world.
Hi there, this is CJ Buckman, your life coach. And whenever I'm in London, I listen to Starr Radio UK right here. But guess what? You can listen to wherever you are.
The best radio show.
Broadcasting worldwide,
all around
24/7.
In your car,
at work,
at home,
on your smartphone.
This is Starr Radio UK. Are you ready to turn it up?
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Oh, your heart is aching. Smile even though it's breaking. When there are clouds in the sky, you get by. If you smile through your fear and sorrow, smile and maybe tomorrow you find that life is still worthwhile if you just smile. Hey, this is Archie and you are listening to Starr Radio UK and The Morning Show.
This is Starr Radio. This is UK. Starr Radio UK. This is Starr Radio UK.
Welcome.
This is Starr Radio UK.
Broadcasting worldwide, online 24/7.
Enlighten your day with Starr Radio.
They fade, Jesus, and that's what makes you great.
Okay, let me say massive good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good dawn to you wherever you might be on planet Earth and those of you on other planets as well. I want to salute each and every one of you and welcome you to the Wednesday edition of the morning show. Today is the 12th day of July, the year 2023, with a time now at 10:41 from the hearts of London. Let me say welcome to the show once again. And let's say good morning to my colleague and co-presenter Mr. Olayomi Koiki, who is feeling better now and is with us. As I said, this week we've all not been feeling very, very well. But hey, because we want to serve you, we have to make it, we have to do our best. So, not fully recouped, but he has to be here and he's here this morning to bring you everything that you need to know. Yummy, good morning to you and to the family as well. I take this opportunity to also say good morning to Bishop Adeshina, Pastor Momo, Olakunle, Anthony Adedeji, Samaswa, Moyiwa, Eben, all the way in South Africa, and all you wonderful people. Felix, all the way in Aberdeen, massive good morning to you. Kojodi, good morning. Kofi Ali Abdul Yakin, good morning. Mr. Malik Ramani Mahama, I salute you. And to my able producer, Mr. Francis Guy, who saw to everything, making sure everything is ticking along nicely before we get on. And so working behind the scenes to make sure that everything takes along nicely so that you can enjoy it. I say morning to you, Mr. Francis Guy. So let me tell you this way, all protocol observed. Once again, welcome, welcome, welcome. Now, if you are sitting, sit very comfortably. If you are standing, hold on to something. Get yourself a hot or cold drink, whichever is appropriate, and let us get on. And once again, welcome. Now, if it is the first time of tuning in to listen to us on a Wednesday edition of the morning show, this is how the program goes. I'm going to bring you the quote for the day, the weather forecast to follow suit, then the travel update as well. Move on from there to have a look at some of the stories making the rounds across the globe. It's known as Global Trotting. Then from there, we move on to have a look at some of the other stories making the rounds from Nigeria. That is updates with Mr. Olayomi Koiki. Updates from Nigeria with Mr. Olayomi Koiki, which since Monday we've not heard his voice. That today is going to be live on telling us what is happening there. But after that, the lines will be open at 11:30 for you to add your voice to the discussions. We'll continue to have a look at some of the stories making the rounds, from archaeology to zoology, from Accra to Zanzibar. As we say, if it's making the headlines, why not? We're gonna touch on it. The NATO summit, the issue in Ghana where some people are conspiring, some police, top crooks conspiring to get rid of the IGP because they reckon that it's not from their party. So these ones belong to the ruling party. Anything, you need to get them out of there so that we can win the election, because the way he's that stringent and making sure that everyone toes the line, we don't think that with his action we'll be able to win the election. So does that mean that elections have been won through foul means? Well, we'll be talking about all that in a moment, so wherever you are, stay tuned. Well, yesterday we did talk about the fact that, well, in Nigeria as well, The Labour Party is calling on its supporters that, hey, guys, get yourself ready. Get yourself, your boots, laced, because we might be going for a rerun of the presidential election. Because, as they were saying, they reckon that the ruling government is already preparing for that. So, is it some sort that we're going to be thinking that, well, the election tribunal hearing will be coming to an end pretty soon, and then we'll be hearing the verdict. And would that be a rerun? That's annulling of the presidential election and a rerun of it? We'll tell you more about all that. So don't you go away. By your comments, whether it's on Facebook, YouTube, Periscope, Twitter, keep it coming in, and I promise you one thing for sure, I'm gonna read that. So once again, welcome.
One who took my place.
So the quote for the day says, the greatest determinant of whether a particular circumstance is ideal is a human factor. And let's cross on straight to the weather front. Let me tell you what's happening on the weather front. Well, when it comes to the weather front, this afternoon we'll start with the sky turning largely cloudy. It will be followed by the arrival of scattered showers. This will be gradually clearing eastwards until the end of the day. The cloud will linger in places this evening, accompanied by a few isolated showers. Eventually, it will become clear overnight, although some patches of cloud may move in at times, and it's going to be breezier. Top temperature 22 degrees, the lowest 12 degrees. Pollen level moderate, UV level moderate, pollution low. Sunset 21:15 and sunrise for tomorrow morning 04:57 hours. And this all coming away from Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Let's have a quick break. We come back and I'll bring you the travel update. Stay tuned. Don't you go away.
Looking for a new way to stay refreshed and hydrated? Look no further than iRange Hydration Drink. iRange is perfect for any situation where you need a little pick-me-up. It's low in calories and has a delicious orange flavor that you will love. So don't wait any longer. Grab a can of iRange today and start enjoying the refreshing. Buy online at irange.co.uk.
This is Starr Radio UK.
Okay, so keep your eyes on the roads, keep it updated. I promise I'll be on the Starr Radio Travel Update. Comes to every weekday from 10:40. It's not 10:47. What's your travels like? Well. Here in the UK, let me tell you how the travels is like, especially those of us in London. Okay, so on the underground this morning, I can tell you shortly, good service there. DLR, London Tramlink, London Overground, good service. But I take that straight to the major roads in London. I can tell you shortly, no exceptional delays. It's all zooming through like no man's business. So straight on to the river bus, where we know we still have reduced service on the Woolwich Ferry. The other side, all the others is running good service. Now, major works on an event, but I can tell you that the London Cable Car has also got good service there, though that is all taking place. And that brings us straight to the final segment of the travel update, and that is the National Rail. So on the National Rail, cross country has got special service. That aside, all the others are running good service today. So it will be a good day to travel. What about that? So let me say it once again, that's how I normally do. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good dawn to you, wherever you might be on planet Earth. Enjoy your comment for today, but you know what? Continue to keep those eyes on the roads.
Hi guys, this is your friend Uruj from SendWave. SendWave is a money transfer app that is used by people all over the world to send money to their loved ones in Africa. With SendWave, you can send money to Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. And the best part is, SendWave is absolutely commission-free. Our exchange rates are excellent. You can see for yourself by checking them out on our website. So how do you use SendWave? SendWave is an app that you can download onto your phone from the App Store or Google Play Store. The app is free to download. After downloading it, just open the app and enter your name, email, and phone number. That's it. You're good to go. Make sure you use the promo code SR. S for Star, R for Radio. This promo code will give you £5 free credit to send to Africa on your first transaction. Your money will be delivered to your recipient within seconds. Feel free to call me on 0749 7377 647 at any time. I'll be happy to tell you all about SendWave and help you in any way I can. Remember to use the promo code SR for £5 free credit. Medasse.
Hi everyone, it's your girl BB Clement, the author of How to Go From Employee to Entrepreneur and the host of your weekly business show, BB Means Business, the show where we discuss everything you ever wanted to know about business but you were afraid to ask. How do I start my business? How do I raise the finance? How do I grow my business? Where am I going to find my customers? Join me every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. on Starr Radio UK to get all the information and tips that you need to become a successful entrepreneur and become financially free. Remember, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life.
Welcome back to the program Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. And let me say good morning to my bishop once again. Bishop Adesina, good morning to you and all the colleagues at the RBS office in Lagos. I salute each and every one of you. I hope you're all doing very, very well. We thank God Nigeria's not happening to any one of us and we are all doing good, right? Yes, we might be going through challenging times, ill health or anything, but the grace of God is abundant to us. All right then. Well, Bishop has said, his first message, Nigerian security arrested oil vessel of about 800,000 capacity, but you know what? They reported that the vessel and fuel were burnt and destroyed. Yes, I did talk about that yesterday, and I was asking the sense in that thing that we do. We are desperate. We know that fuel prices are high and everything. Yet we get it and we destroy it. And I ask myself, we behave as if we got billions that we can just waste. Why did they destroy that ship? Couldn't government be using it? Why did they destroy the fuel as well? Couldn't they have just taken it to maybe it's from government, somebody stole it, so why did they bring it to government chest and then maybe sell it on? Why? Well, interesting. It says, please, who are they fooling? Oh, well, he's saying that they did it. Okay. Hey, Jojo. Hey. Pastor Jojo, good morning to you. I hope you are doing very, very well. More blessings to you too, my brother. More blessings and more grace, And I can see all the good work that you are doing. Global trotting like that, my brother. May God give you more grace. Amen. All right then, let's move on straight to some of the stories making the rounds today with the updates from Nigeria. So let's start it from with the global trotting, but let's pick it from Nigeria, where Olayomi Koiki is going to be joining me to bring you updates from there. It's a naira devaluation. Nigeria students face tough times in UK tuition. As tuition fees soars by 60%. Now, Sokoto governorship, the tribunal admits Gilbert school sets in evidence. A U.S. court sentences Mr. Woodbury to 8 years in prison, deportation to Nigeria. I don't know whether it will be after he has served that sentence then, or he's going to be coming to Nigeria to come and serve that sentence. But Yomi is going to be telling us more about that. The Senate constituted an ad hoc committee to investigate the fuel subsidy regime of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited. With more about that coming your way, the chief imam of Yoruba land and also the chief imam of Ilorin addressing the emir of Ilorin and how he needs to leave and go back to where he came from. Interesting one. And then how former aviation minister Hadi Sirakas corruption, nepotism, weakened security at Lagos Airport contributed to stealing of airfield lighting system. My goodness. Well. You want to know more? Yes, get yourself geared up because more is going to be coming your way in the next few moments. And then moving on straight to some other stories making the rounds this morning. Yes, in other parts of the world, as we did say, from archaeology to zoology, if it's making the headlines, why not? We're going to be touching on that. Okay, now 3 people killed in a helicopter crash in southern Congo. The helicopter owned by a mining corporation crashed at noon on Monday as it was traveling from one mine to another. What happened? Well, I know that the air investigation team will be doing their diligence when it comes to that. Now, Iran's president arrives in Nairobi for 3-day African tour. He is trying to, reconnect. Interesting. And Angola and DRC announced joint project to rehabilitate railway line. Interesting one there as well. In Mali, a presenter is to remain in custody despite acquittal on one count. A prominent Malian TV and radio presenter was acquitted on charges that he falsely claimed a former premier had been murdered in custody. Well, he's been acquitted, yet they're still holding him. Interesting one there. You know, that is Africa for you. Well. Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Madagascar presidential election to be held at the end of the year. It's one of the stories there as well. Moving on straight to some other stories making the rounds in Ghana as well. Blackwa has petitioned World Bank to probe 48 million ascent contract allegedly awarded by Ursula Owusu Ekufo. Well, we'll be telling you more about that. We know that there are bodies or who are supposed to see to approve, such contracts. But however, when they go by or they just don't consult this organization and they just go and approve it, and then you ask yourself, some corruption has been committed, or they've compromised the whole situation, or there's been a conflict of interest there. So what is it all about? We're going to be telling you more about that as well. Now, interestingly, yesterday I did talk about this story where there's a leaked audio audio that is going on social media where it was on Starr FM as well in Ghana. Let me say to all the Starr FM guys, good morning to you all. I hope you all doing very, very well. Now, and there were some big hooks in the police service who were plotting to oust the IGP. Why? Because it's all because of the fact that they think that he doesn't belong to their fraternity. When I say fraternity, I'm not talking about the police service, but I'm talking about their party. So they think that the way that he's seen to policing the two by-election is, if that is something that they have to look at, then they reckon that come the 2024 general election, they might not have the chance of rigging the election or doing all sorts to win the election. And some are calling for some investigation to be done, but others are saying, you know what? Yeah. There is nothing that is worth investigating in there. But what is going to happen? Now, if you are the police chief, and now you have it in your mind, maybe these are people who you move with at times, you go to some ceremony and they are all there with you. Meanwhile, they are plotting behind the scenes to oust you. Like we say, giving a dog a bad name so that you can hang it. That's what they're trying to do. But has he performed or overperformed or underperformed? What do you think? I want to have your take on that. Bishop Adesina says, I said it. The devaluation of Naira will affect not only Nigerians in homeland, but much more. The Nigerians in the diaspora will also suffer this arbitrary step. Of course, because if they are giving them the money, they are looking at it that they're giving them maybe 100,000 Naira, and they convert that to pound sterling or to dollars, whatever currency, and then we see how much or what has been done there. Interesting one there. It is all coming your way from Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. But some are saying, Tobu is saying that police have no business in who wins election. Well, they have no business if they are able to police the polling station so that nothing unwarranted or sanction will go on there. That means you're sure that come the time that they are counting the ballots, there will be no one who is some way somehow or has some way somehow managed to manipulate few things there. But it's not coming away from Starr Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London, bringing the time now to 2 minutes to 11. It's a Wednesday edition of the morning show. You know what? 12 o'clock exactly, we'll be taking you to the House of Parliament for the Prime Minister's question time. No, the Prime Minister is not in town. He is at the NATO conference. Yet we'll be having the Deputy Prime Minister doing the show. Yes, last week he did very well. So let's see what he's going to be doing this week as well. Wherever you are, stay tuned. Don't you go away. Now, here in the UK, look at the damage. Vine calls on BBC presenter to name himself. And as we've been saying, innocent until proven guilty. So if the person, it's all allegations. I don't know why. What do you think about all that? Do you think he should come forward and say, hey, it's me. But in my defense, this is da. But when it comes to media trial, I tell you that whatever you say can be misconstrued. And then, blown out of proportion and can end up getting you. But whatever has happened, do you think it's a crime? Has a crime been committed at all or not? Well, maybe he broke the COVID rules. Well, he was supposed to stay at home, decided to go out. Maybe he has been found 50 pounds, right? Okay, Starr Radio UK. Zelensky meets Sunak after NATO membership row. On day one of NATO summit, Zelensky said delays in Ukraine's membership timeline are absurd. Now, I did say that yesterday, that they wouldn't want to bring them on board, because the moment they bring them on board, as NATO slogan is one for all, and all for one and one for all. Once you touch one of them, they all have to now join in, and they don't want to escalate the whole war into something of the sort, so they wouldn't want to do that. But watching some of the stories that we put earlier on Sky News this morning, we're talking about how difficult that war, fight or take back fight by the Ukrainians is going on. It's very difficult with all the mines that the Russians have put in places, so it's making advancing very, very difficult there, or challenging. What do you think about all that? North Korea has fired long-range missile after threatening U.S. The launch comes after Pyongyang accused the U.S. military of repeated air incursions. Really? Okay. The missing German man's remains found in Thailand freezer. Whoa! The Pattaya-based businessman dismembered body turned up after he had gone missing for a week. My goodness! Now, sometimes I ask myself the question: how people can be that wicked? Can you just imagine chopping somebody? Gosh! Wow. It's all Starr Radio UK. Now, 7 cheetah dies in India since reintroduction. The cheetahs were declared extinct in India in 1952, but they were reintroduced last year amid such fanfare, and now 7 of them has died as well. Now, Thailand coup leader departs the stage. Now, Prayut Chan-o-cha's 9 year of authoritarian rule saw a sweeping crackdown on political dissent. Well, he's cleared the way now. Let's see what is going to happen. Ex-Mansion follower released after 53 years in jail. It's all Starr Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Well, mortgages to jump by £500 for 1 million households. Bank of England says higher interest rates are yet to hit many homes, but lenders are proving resilient. Well. So we'll be seeing all those things happening there. So coming away from Starr Radio UK, and Michelle O'Neill addressing COVID-19 inquiry. The former Deputy First Minister of Northern Ireland is giving evidence in London. All right then. So this and a lot more going to be coming your way. Bishop Adamson says, and if all this continue, fuel hike, naira devaluation, insecurity, etc., by August, Nigeria will not be able to take it any further. That Nigerians will not be able to take it any further. But revolt, I perceive. Oh my goodness. The man of God is speaking there. What do you think? Well. So Starr Radio, okay? Now let's enjoy this music and I'll be with you. Stay tuned. Don't you go away. It is Starr Radio UK. This is from Pastor Theodora Boachiansa and it says everlasting to everlasting. Enjoy.
This is Starr Radio UK.
You are listening to Starr Radio Morning Show.
Oh, great I am, omnipotent, King of kings, Lord of lords. We worship you and lift you high. Your kingdom's spread. In your
as a creator who was not created, king who has no successor, flower that never fades. Abba Father, we worship you. Thy kingdom come. Thy kingdom come. Oh Lord. We call you Emmanuel. Emmanuel.
Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. That is Everlasting to Everlasting from Pastor Theodore Abuachi and Sir. And I want to say welcome to every one of you who's tuned in today to listen to us on the Starr Radio UK Wednesday edition of the morning show. I'll be taking you straight to our North London studios where I've got the one and only, yes, my brother. For a couple of days he's been under the weather, but thank God he's up and running now. And let me go to him and let me say, Yomi, good morning.
Well, a very good morning to you, Mr. Archie. Good morning, Frank. Good morning to all our listeners around the globe. And good morning to all our presenters and also to the sister broadcast that is connected to the transmission this morning. It is the 12th day of July, and I will come back again to you 8 minutes past. I know we're really pressed of time, but later on tonight, there will not be time pressure because we will have the 2.5 hours on the Niger Voices where we're going to be discussing Bola Tinubu, the new president that has been now given the opportunity to host the ECOWAS. What does that really mean to Nigerians, and how is that going to transform the union between the West of Africa? All that will be part of the discussion, but let me come back again to you because we have to take care of some of the other matters, especially the diaspora, which is now facing the brunt of these currency that we're going to be talking about. I think I have the the specimen, £50. I've been able to find my 1,000 naira that Umefele wanted to destroy. At least I can still send this back to Nigeria if I don't want to keep it as a souvenir. I have the 500 naira and I have the £5. All that is part of the discussion this morning. But for now, it is the finest African and Caribbean radio station in London. I will come back now to you in the studio, Mr. Archie.
Yes, I thank God that you are feeling much better, because I don't know what happened, but we were all not feeling very well at all. But I needed to come in because I thought if both of us are not in, that will not be good. One has to hold the helm, yes. But we thank God that you are doing good. I hope the family is doing well as well.
Very good. We're doing very well.
Great. Listeners, it's Starr Radio UK. Updates from Nigeria with Mr. Olayomi, Koiki and North London studios. I'm actually here in the South studios. And let's crack on. Now, you just show us the Nigerian currency vis-a-vis that of the pound sterling here. And we're talking about students who are here educating themselves. Bettering themselves, getting education. They will go back. Now, you are looking at the devaluation of the Naira, which in effect, because if I am in Nigeria and I'm worth 1 billion naira, okay, let's call it that way. Now with the devaluation of the naira, I'm not worth 1 billion naira any longer. So how are they fending for the students who are here? Is it government? Those who are on government scholarships, or those who by virtue of maybe their parents or whoever is sponsoring them? Is that what you are talking about here, Yomi?
When we look look at the the issue on the table, you're quite right. For every naira that you have in your account, even those that are very wealthy, that literally means that the money continues to devalue. We have only an acting CBN governor. We don't have Emefiele anymore. But we know that when it comes to the monetary, the naira, everything is linked to the Central Bank of Nigeria, which is equivalent to the Bank of England. But what we are discussing this morning is about how do we make sure that the Nigerians that are studying abroad, and most also here in the UK, since the devaluation of the currency, it's going to have a big impact, because at some point we realized that as many Nigerians were also getting a bit of subsidy in terms of the dollars that they were spending, or the euro or the pounds, especially those that are studying outside. You might be asking, how many Nigerians are really studying outside? It doesn't matter, as long as you can afford what the British government have laid out in terms of the rules. You will need nothing less than £9,000 if you're going to be living outside, and that is for the 1 year accommodation. You will need £9,000 equivalent if you're going to be living outside. That means Manchester, Birmingham. But if you're going to be living in London, you will need a little bit more. That is not the tuition fee. That is just for the accommodation. But what we are now getting in terms of the reportage is that many Nigerian students are now facing tough times in the United Kingdom after the naira equivalent of their tuition fee have increased more than 60%. And this makes me remember Venezuela. Venezuela is an oil wealth country, but they are 20 years poorer today.
It is so true, and that is all due to, as I would say, mismanagement of our leadership and our own people not doing what they're supposed to do. So what are the students calling for? Is government going to come to their aid, or what is going to happen?
Well, Bola Tinubu allowed what we called the multiple exchange rate at the Apex Bank. They've decided to float the naira between the investors and the exporter window. And that means that as of today, if I have £50, which I've got with me, this is a specimen, it's not the real money. So don't think you can get this from me. But this is the original money called the naira. That is 50,000 naira, because £1 now is 1 naira. 1,000 naira is a pound equivalent. The question you're asking is, what are the students expecting? The rise in the exchange rate has put more pressure on many Nigerians that are schooling in the UK and beyond. Most importantly, the UK is one of the destinations of the choice of many Nigerians. Guess what? We have about 128,770 Nigerian students enrolled in university between 2015 and 2022, according to the data by the Higher Education Statistics Agency in the UK. According to the Central Bank of Nigeria, the study-related foreign exchange outflow to the UK is about $2.5 billion as of 2022. Nigerian students and their dependents in the United Kingdom contributed about £1.9 billion annually to the UK economy, according to the analysis by the SBN Intelligence. Many of these students are now struggling to pay the balance of their tuition fee due to the sharp end. So I don't know what they're going to be saying, but the Nigerian student resident in Manchester, Adejoro Deborah, who sounded stressed, this policy is affecting those of us here, and even intending students. My sibling has had to forfeit their admission because of this policy. Even many students have fallen into the victim of online scammers.
Well, when things like that is happening, we know opportunists also come up, and then they will be doing all sorts. So, well, you have to be careful, and that's why we bring you all this that you need to know. It's Starr Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London.
Like I was saying earlier, the student added, if you put 5 million naira in your account in March, when the rate was around 560, naira to a pound, that means you will pay around £9,000 tuition fee, which I did explain. But by July, the same 5 million will only be able to pay £5,000. So they've lost £4,000 automatically.
Wow. That is a proper galloping inflation there. But well, listeners, it is Star Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Because of Wednesday edition, we need to push on with some of the stories making the rounds there. Now, the Senate constituted an ad hoc committee to investigate the fuel subsidy regime of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited yesterday, and Bishop Adesina has commented on that as well. We did have a story that came through that was saying that a ship, one of these ships was confiscated with crude oil, which they're talking about some security agency, a private security agency that has been employed by the NNPL.
Tompolo.
Yeah, Tompolo. And then they said that, well, they confiscated it and they burnt it. And I was asking myself the question, what is the sense in that? It's not like we've got lots of it sitting at home and virtually crude oil. I mean, we have Nigerians go to the filling station and fill their vehicles for free. It's not like that. We are struggling. So why should they have done or taken that action? But well, the Senate ad hoc committee, what are they going to be doing?
Well, from the report coming from the Senate that they will be probing the NNPCL subsidy regime. What do we know? The Senate yesterday constituted an ad hoc committee to investigate the fuel subsidy regime that have costed Nigeria to the close of almost 400 billion naira every month. And you heard that very well. 400 billion naira, and that is the dilapidated Ajaokuta that have been abandoned after billions of dollars was also spent into it as well. The question then is, will this make any changes? I mean, this is the new Senate president that was also a floor member. How they're going to manage this, committee, whether there will be any outcome of it, because it's always about the rhetorics. Nigerians, politicians, analysts, they've been talking for 24 years. You see them on the TV, on the print, and also on the social media that we have today. But this followed the adoption of a motion by Senator Patrick Chiwebu, APC, Imo State, during the preliminary yesterday. The motion was tagged, "Need to investigate the controversial huge expenditure on the petroleum motor spirit, known as petrol, under the subsidy under recovery regime by the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited." Moving the motion, Mr. Chiwebu said that the federal government, as at May 11, 2016, announced an increase in the fuel pump price from 87 naira to between 135 and 145. As of today, Nigerians are putting out almost close to 500 naira, if not a little bit more, in the black market. The question then is, will this government of the current Bola Ahmed Tinubu, as he has said, subsidy is gone, we can't bring it back, it is just too late to bring it back right now, but how will he be able to substitute Nigerians, as especially so many Nigerians, we know about 130 million are living in abject poverty? It will save a lot of money, we know that already, because 400 billion have been saved from the first month of this subsidy. But in moving further, how do you then subsidize Nigerians that are living in abject poverty? So what the Senate are saying is that there have been leakages, wastage, and slippage, just as we saw yesterday in the news that you reported that Tompolo intercepted a vessel that was taking a crude oil out of Nigeria without probably no payment, and this has been going on for decades.
Well, somebody will say it's not a poor man sitting at Ajaokuta or at Oworo or somewhere trading who has been involved in that. It's the big hooks, the big fishes. Because how can I own a fish, a ship? I cannot own a ship. I mean, it's the big people who own the ship, and therefore they are the ones doing the same thing. But listen, at Star Radio UK, let me say good morning to Carl Manes. Hey, how are you doing, my brother? Yes, Max, we'll catch up pretty soon. Anthony Adedeji, good morning to you as well. Now, Bishop Adesina says currency experience increased more than 60%. It shows Naira has devalued 60% to pound sterling within 2 months. 1,030 Naira is now 1 pounds. Okay, 1 pound. So like Yomi was saying, he think that 1 pound is equivalent to 1,000. No, they said no, it's 1,030. Now 30 has been added to it as well. And he says it's wonderful. Now, if you're listening to us and you're in Nigeria or you're here, you're educating yourself. I mean, if, those of us even here who remit money home to help our families. Now, you see that everything seems to be, what do you think? What do you think? We want you to add your comments to the broadcast. Feel free to do so, and we will touch on that. It is Starr Radio, okay? Now let's quickly touch on this one, and then I'll come back to some of the ones that you've touched on here. Now, yesterday, the Labour Party came out to say that, look, the ruling government, the APC, are preparing themselves for a rerun of the presidential elections. And so they were also calling on their folks to get themselves or get their lazy style for getting themselves ready for a rerun of the election. Does that mean to say that the election tribunal seem to be getting closer to its verdict, and then is it going to be that they are going to annul the whole election results? Because looking at what Tinubu has done so far, though the naira has been devalued, but some areas we can say that, well, he's been a man enough to be pushing things around. Would Nigerians continue to love him if he has to go to the polls? Would they vote for him as well? Yomi.
Well, that's not an evidence. Loving him is a different thing. Going in accordance with the election tribunal is two different things as well. So as much as the love that Tinubu has, especially from the southwest, the Yorubas, because they believe that Emilokon, which literally means that it is our turn, even though their turn doesn't bring money so far, but it is still early. But we know that from the report that people are losing £4,000 on top of their 9,000 or their 5 million naira equivalent in Nigeria between just March and July. Yes, I've been following the news as well. What the chairman of the Labour Party is saying, that the Labour and the obedient should prepare their mind for a rerun. We can't confirm that yet because the petition tribunal has not given us any hint whether they are now talking to them from behind the scene that we are not aware. But all I can say is that, what they have actually said, that even the APC is gearing up for a rerun. If that is going to happen, that means that, Nigeria will probably be, a better place to decide that. But I am not sure whether there will be a rerun, but it is too early to call. But we'll have to all wait patiently for the election tribunal to conclude their outcome and decide what will be in terms of whether it's a rerun or it's just a total, win right for Bola Tinubu, even though the argument has always been that 25% that was argued with so many other gray area. But like I said, Nigeria is full of different things, and what we can only say is that until the election tribunal comes back, nobody, and it's just a speculation that there will be a rerun.
Okay, let's digressing a bit. Now, assuming that there's going to be a rerun, what do you think would be the best move for Tinubu? I mean, releasing Nnamdi Kanu, talking to Chief Sunday Igboho to annul all those things, and then he would have been the one who have died. Yes! Do you think that would be good for him?
Well, Tinubu, as we know, he's been in the game for a very long time, even though he took advantage of the Yoruba Nation campaign, to get into, what he's doing today, because we all know that, Chief Dr. Sunday Igboho, was very, very vocal, outspoken, a philanthropist, left everything to make one voice clear with him, and also, our leader of the Yoruba Self-Determination, Professor Adebanji Akintoye. These two were the vocal point that Tinubu was also able to use to climb the ladder, to make the northern part of Nigeria to say, look, if you do not allow me to get to this position that I brought Buhari into in 2015, then remember that Igboho and, Professor Akintoye, with all those campaigners of the Yoruba Self-Determination, will definitely have no other choice. And that literally means that will he be able to use a different strategy should the rerun happen? We've seen that as many people are asking Tinubu to forgive Igboho, and the question is, what has Igboho done to Buhari that led to an assassination attempt on his life in his house on the 1st of July 2021? Also, what could happen in terms of a 2 weeks lockdown that Simon Ekpa, the government in exile, is now pushing that will happen from the month of July. They've just completed a 1 week sit at home, but it seems that the Biafra are still pushing for what they say the release of Nnamdi Kanu. Will Bola Tinubu take advantage of this? We know that he was able to capture some of his vote, especially in Rivers State, because Wike was able to rig that election for him in Rivers State, because Wike was part of the G5 that refused to work with Atiku. Even some of those in the West refused, like the governor of Oyo State, literally worked for Tinubu against his own party.
Well, listeners, it is Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London, 1126. I'm just going to allow Yomi to bring you the rest of the stories, because you know that on Wednesdays we are pressed with time. So, Yomi, over to you, sir.
Well, we're just going to touch one or two, and then later on at 1800 hours, we would have what it takes to understand ECOWAS. What does it mean? You know, now that the Bola Tinubu traveled down, is back to Nigeria, is now the chairman of ECOWAS, is only a 1 year tenure. How is he going to make use of it? What is the advantage? We'll be discussing that as well. We might also have a guest that will be telling us about what they are doing in preparing July 29 for an outing from London. Those in support of the Yoruba Nation movement, which is also going to happen, but we will confirm that before the program goes on air. But let's come back, as there is still more discussion. Let's go to the former governor of Benue State, Otom. Panel storms Otom automobile workshop and impound vehicles. It seems that some of these governors, each time they leave, they move with their vehicles that maybe is a government vehicle or not. But the Asset Recovery Committee, now set up by the new Benue State Governor, Ayasi Alia, on Tuesday yesterday, stormed what they call the automobile workshop owned by the former governor Samuel Otom with towing vehicles. And guess what? Remove some of the vehicles. Earlier, through his chief press secretary, Kula, recently disclosed that the government vehicles numbering 29 were allegedly looted by the past governor. The question then is, if these vehicles keep getting looted, that means the new governor will have to spend money from the budget that is not enough to buy more vehicles. I don't understand why some of these governors open an automobile, then using the government vehicle and move it out. Let's go to Sokoto Governorship Tribunal. Admit Kobe school certificate in evidence. You'll be wondering how we got to this state that Nigerians are those politicians that are saying that we want to lead you. They don't even have school cert. I mean, I have mine, whether it's a fail or pass. But it seems that the politician never knew that they would get to this position, and it is always the school cert. Remember that former President Muhammadu Buhari could not tell us where his school certificate was. They were looking for it, even in everywhere, until they couldn't find it, and the rest they say is an history. But the Election Petition Tribunal in Sokoto State yesterday admitted in evidence 2 letters on Deputy Governor Idris Gobe educational qualification, and has now adjourned sitting until July 19. Tribunal Chairman Justice Aruna adjourned the case after the People's Democratic Party and the 2023 governorship candidate Alhaji Saidu Umar closed their testimony to prove their petition. The exhibit admitted are from the Sabon Bini Local Government Education Authority, tendered by Muiwa Akimboro, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, that led the council to the PDP in this 2023 governorship election. Akimboro, the state party chairman, Alhaji Bello, who was the last among the 32 witnesses, in his testimony, Goroyo said he delegated some party members as agents and received report on election violence. He admitted that some people were arrested for alleged violence and malpractice, however, could not attest to being persecuted. So it seems that when it comes to WAEC certificate, it is always a problem to our politicians, because some of them are too fraudulent as well. Let's come to, as many of us will have seen people, especially with the new social media, celebrating cars, money, girls, women, traveling abroad. But guess what? Some of them are criminals, and they are so fraudulent that they have now been able to capture one of them. And that is him right there. You can tell that he called himself Bobbery, but Bobbery was using some other revenue that doesn't belong to him. Now the U.S. court have sentenced Mr. Woodbury to 8 years in prison, and also he will be getting a deportation. The question you asked before I came on air was whether he will be serving in Nigeria. He will also be praying that he serve it in the U.S. because the United States will give him 3 square meals. They will change his outfit at every interval of the weather. He would also be given opportunity to learn a new course that will be away from criminality. Nigerian-born Olalekan Jacob Ponle has now been sentenced after being convicted on a 1 count of fraud in Chicago, and 7 other counts were dismissed following a plea bargain in April. A federal judge in the United States has sentenced Jacob Olalekan Ponle to 8 years and 3 months in prison for his coordination of multi-million-dollar fraud. Mr. Ponle was sentenced July 11 yesterday by Judge Robert Geltman of the United States District of the Northern District of Illinois in Chicago, according to the court. The defendant is hereby committed to the custody of the Federal Bureau of Prison to be in prison for a total term of 100 months as to count. Mr. Ponle was sentenced after being convicted on a 1 count fraud, 7 other counts. Let's talk about how justice is not served in Nigeria. Let's talk about Bamishe. Bamishe was the young Nigerian that traveled on the BRT from his workplace as a fashion designer, heading home to meet his sister that was pregnant and deliver the new outfit that will be put on after the delivery. She never made that journey because, as we all say, may Nigeria not happen to you. She was actually murdered right inside the Lagos transport system. That then threw a body on the side of the road, naked, and also some extra part have been removed from the body. Yesterday was 500 days, and justice is still not served to Bamishe and the family. We hope that the governor of Lagos State, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, as they were making their case at the Lagos House of Assembly yesterday, it took time and pressure before somebody attended to them. We will be monitoring that case, and we hope Babajide Sanwo-Olu, the Lagos State governor, would allow justice to be served, just as justice was served to Ike Kerimadu for attempting to do what we call illegal of the kidney donation. So let's go straight to the social media because of the time, and then we come back again to you. And like we say, may Nigeria not happen to you. These are the colored money. I'm not sure as many Nigerians have even been able to see this colored money, even though this money was what Emefiele wanted to inject into Nigeria, as at the time he was the former governor of Central Bank of Nigeria. The election is concluded, but there is still more pressure in Nigeria with debt and other issues. Now let's go straight to the social media. Yes, the chief imam of Ilorin has told the emir that you cannot stop what is called a traditional festival between a woman that says that she has been stopped from not giving opportunity to perform a rite. Ilorin is in Kwara State. Kwara State is a Yoruba territory, but the Muslims that are becoming so fanatics, as we have seen them around the world, are proving that she cannot conduct a tradition on the ground that Ilorin is a Yoruba land, but is also an Islamic state. And that literally means that if she wants to conduct such, she needs to travel to another state and do such. Even the Nigerian fraudulent 1999 military diktat allows us to practice our festival regardless of your faith. But we say to those that are trying to push the narrative, this is the narrative that the West did in Venezuela by allowing their culture and enforce a different religion. The Yoruba have a culture, and this culture has been with us before the Islam was brought into the southwest of Nigeria, called the Yoruba territory. That is how far we can go, but later on we will expatiate on why a festival should not be allowed to be conducted in a state that is not an Islamic state. Even those that went to Saudi Arabia, some of them have now been crying out that they've been abandoned. Even one said in the video that they lost somebody, and the reason for that is the airline or whoever packaged them, that is the tune of 5 million naira, almost 9,000 pounds, they've now been abandoned. As many other countries have gone back home, Nigerians are still crying for help from the new president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, to help them out.
Wow. Listeners, it is Star Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. You want to know more? You want to hear more? Join Mr. Olayomi Koiki this evening exactly at 18 hours. That will be 6 p.m. And when he will bring you Niger Voices. Okay. Now, Bishop Adesina says Nigeria administration tied international organization. Yesterday, Nigerians that travel for Hajj religious practice cried for help in Saudi Arabia. They are stranded and we are staffed. Now it goes on to say no government responding to their return back flight delay. So if your family member is there, then I bet now you need to find some money to help get a person, to repatriate the person to back to Nigeria. I don't know what is going to happen there, but you want to know more, make sure that your dials are logged on exactly at 6 p.m. or 18 hours BST when Mr. Olayomi Koiki will be coming your way with Niger Voices. Yomi, before we go,
stay tuned for the rest of the program at 12 noon. Like you said, it's going to be the PMQ, even though we saw Biden with all his motorcade in London, and they've now flew down to Lithuania where they're having the NATO summit. But for now, Star Radio UK will take you through the rest of the program. I'll be back in the next few hours, exactly 6 p.m. local time in Nigeria, 6 p.m. UK time, or 1800 hours. Thank you so much, and bye for now.
Bye. Well, listeners, that has been Mr. Olayomi Koiki bringing you updates from Nigeria. As I just say, well, it is the Wednesday edition of the morning show, so we are already pressed with time. Default position. But share with me your stories and whatever you think about what we've said so far. But hold on, don't you go anywhere. Let's take a quick commercial break, and once we come back, we'll continue with the show. Stay tuned. Star, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London.
Hi guys, this is your friend Uruj from SendWave. SendWave is a money transfer app that is used by people all over the world to send money to their loved ones in Africa. With SendWave, you can send money to Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. And the best part is, SendWave is absolutely commission free. Our exchange rates are excellent. You can see for yourself by checking them out on our website. So how do you use SendWave? SendWave is an app that you can download onto your phone from the App Store or Google Play Store. The app is free to download. After downloading it, just open the app and enter your name, email, and phone number. That's it. You're good to go. Make sure you use the promo code SR. S for Star, R for Radio. This promo code will give you £5 free credit to send to Africa on your first transaction. Your money will be delivered to your recipient within seconds. Feel free to call me on 0749 7377 647 at any time. I'll be happy to tell you all about SendWave and help you in any way I can. Remember to use the promo code SR for £5 free credit. Medasse.
Hi everyone, it's your girl BB Clement, the author of How to Go From Employee to Entrepreneur and the host of your weekly business show, BB Means Business, the show where we discuss everything you ever wanted to know about business but you were afraid to ask. How do I start my business? How do I raise the finance? How do I grow my business? Where am I going to find my customers? Join me every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. on Star Radio UK to get all the information and tips that you need to become a successful entrepreneur and become financially free. Remember, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life.
Are you looking for the fastest, reliable, and trustworthy door-to-door shipment company? Well, look no further. When was the last time your family received a shipment back in Ghana on time and in time? You are not sure? Well, Lamb Shippers, we pride ourselves with being the fastest, reliable, and trustworthy shippers you can use. You are assured of a prompt pickup anywhere in the UK by our personnel. They also make sure your items are well packaged to get to its destination in time. When it comes to door-to-door shipment, look no further. Well, Lamb Shippers, contact us on 07939009321 or 07498911820. Or you can visit our website www.welllamp.co.uk. You can also drop us a mail, info@welllamp@gmail.com. Well, Lamb Shippers, fast, reliable, and trustworthy.
Everywhere you go, Afrobeat reggae dancehall taking over. Everywhere you go, Afrobeat reggae dancehall taking over. Yo, what's up, people? This is a boy Raskin Bobo One. Tune in every day, every night at the Star Radio UK with the big man them Archie. When I say Orta, you say fire.
Welcome back to the program Star Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. We just got about 19 minutes to bring the first part of the program to close so that we can take you to the House of Parliament for the Prime Minister's question time. So wherever you are, stay tuned. I'll not bring you the music now. I'll bring you music after we've ended up, we finished with the discussion. So we'll bring that one, then we'll cross over to the House of Parliament. All right? Okay. So just bear with me. But tomorrow, God willing, we'll have time to do all that again. All right then. So on the African continent, some of the other stories making the round. 3 people have been killed in a helicopter crash in southeastern Congo. The story said that 3 people in a helicopter crash in the southeastern Congo, said local authorities. The helicopter, owned by a mining corporation, crashed at noon on Monday as it was traveling from one mine to another. It was found in a ravine in a cobalt-rich province of Lualaba, said Guy Shahema, a local government official in the area. The victims were subcontractors for the Boss Mining Company and included a South African who was head of the G4S security company, his Polish deputy, and French pilot. He said the cause of the crash is not yet known. The bodies have been taken to a morgue in nearby Lubumbashi city. The mineral-rich country is the world's largest producer of cobalt, used to make lithium ion batteries for electric vehicles. Congo is also Africa's top producer of copper and lithium. Was recently found there as well. But they are the poorest in the world. But we say that, well, our colonial masters and everybody is doing us good, and our leaders are doing us very, very good as well. We have that. We can use that as a leverage to negotiate proper things. We could let them set up battery producing factories there, so that people can get jobs to do, and our lives can be improved. But what do we see? Interesting. Well. May their souls rest in perfect peace. In Kenya, police have fired tear gas as banned demonstrators. In Kenya, the story says Kenyan police fired tear gas on Wednesday at demonstrators who had defied a ban on opposition rallies to protest against rising prices and new government taxes. Now, shops were closed and the capital, Nairobi, was under heavy police surveillance. In the Mathare slum, police fired tear gas as demonstrators who threw stones at them. They also used them to disperse demonstrators in the southern port city of Mombasa. On Tuesday, the head of the National Police Force banned demonstrations called by the opposition on the grounds that the latter had not informed the authorities and invited population not to join these illegal gatherings. Now, last Friday, demonstration against the government and the president of President William Ruto took place in several cities in response to a call from opposition leader Raila Odinga. In Nairobi, the police fired tear gas at Mr. Odinga's convoy. They did the same to disperse rallies in Mombasa, South, and Kisumu. Well. It is all Star Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Okay, and let me bring you this one and then we go on. Senegalese opposition figures charged with insulting President Starr. Oh my, if it is place, then most of us will be arrested, right? Now, Birame Souleye Diop, an opponent of Senegalese President Macky Sall, was charged on Tuesday with offending the head of state. His lawyer announced the chairman of the parliamentary group of the Yewi Askanwi opposition coalition and an executive of the PASTEF, the party of Osman Sonko, the head of state's fierce opponent, has been charged with acts likely to compromise public peace and offending the president of the republic. Now, his lawyer Musa Sarr told AFP, adding that he had been placed under a committal order. On July 3, Macky Sall announced that he will not stand for a third term in the presidential election scheduled for next year.
at a press conference the following day, Mr. Diop warned against a possible U-turn by the head of state. Now, if he did make that statement, what's wrong with that? In a court, he said, I warned the next candidate of the APR, avoid eating at his house, avoid drinking his water. He's capable of poisoning you, and saying, as we have no more candidates, I'm coming back and to do it Watara style. Beware, he said before apologizing. Well, he's joking. You need to take it as a joke there. But well, because of that, some are saying that they have to take him on board. And well. Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. And I did ask the question the other time: what did the visit of the African delegation to Russia and Ukraine actually bring out? What did we get out of that? Okay, nothing. And absolutely nothing. Okay, one other story, move on to Ghana, and then we'll move on quickly and run up the first part of the program. Now, supporters of prominent Malian TV and radio journalist welcome Tuesday his acquittal of charges of faking crimes and inventing evidence for non-existence crime. Now, outside Bamako's District Court of Commune 6, my apologies, they are voiced. Okay, the IV is 4. Okay, the second. Okay, let me take it again. They are voiced. Okay, typo there. That's why I'm getting it wrong. They voiced their support as Mohammed Yusuf Bathili's convoy passed. Now, Bathili has still got hurdles to overcome, a leader of a local rights group said. Now, unfortunately, there are 2 cases against him. The second case is in the chambers. The first chamber in Commune 4, which has not yet been executed or even started. Mahmoudou N. Fufana, the president of the association, Maleni, the Apollo Oaks Distarabo, said the judge who has a committee order against him, Judge Maiga, has been transferred. We're waiting for his replacement. I would like to see him so that we can look at the case, see if we can get to the bottom of it and seek provisional release for Rasta. Now, Bartley, also known as Rasbath, was placed in custody on March 13 after allegedly saying former Prime Minister Someliu Bubeye Maiga did not die from natural causes while he was behind bars but had been assassinated. Well, you have to be sure, because you go say anything of the sort, well, they will come after you. It's all coming your way from Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Now, just starting straight to Ghana, a couple of stories there, and then we'll just move on. Let me just start on one of them. Now, Samuel Okujato Blocker has petitioned the World Bank, the North Tongo MP, over a project being rolled out by the Ministry of Communication and Digitalization. According to him, the contract of the project did not go through Public Procurement Authority, which he says is violation. Mr. Blackwell has thus asked the World Bank to investigate the project, as it is the one funding the same. In a tweet on Wednesday, July 12, the former Deputy Education Minister said $48 million contract was awarded fraudulently. And he said, yesterday I petitioned the World Bank to launch investigation into the litany and irregularities, misrepresentation, insider dealing, and conflict of interest relating to $48 million Ascend scandal and how that was used to fraudulently secure a $49.5 million WB funded e-transform project. That'll be quite an interesting one. So we'll be watching it very, very closely, and I'll tell you that tomorrow when we come in, I'll be looking at it. Mr. Blackwell subsequently produced further particulars, which the minister dismissed as a case of shifting goalposts on the issue. This is the NDC MP. The NDC MP has asked the World Bank to probe. Okay, so we'll see will the World Bank probe it or not. Some comments coming from there. Okay, Koiki answered you and says it's a good move. It is not. It now puts the matter beyond the court of public opinion and speculation. This will help unravel the truth and bring matters to rest. I sometimes also wonder how these World Bank guys do their work. There are projects past and present, for which World Bank grants approval, and it beats my imagination. Is it that the approval committee members do get a cut from such approval, or what? Now, Gabusu also says, you shall always be a fault finder. You shall be known as a wicked, suspicious or destroying character. Well, he's against Samuel Okudjata Brokwa for bringing up that case against the minister Esra Owusu Akufo. All right then. Starr Radio UK. Now, one other story from there. I know that our time is quite gone. The Member of Parliament for West, Peter Tobu, said it is not the duty of the police administration to ensure a particular political party wins an election. This is on the back of a leaked audio in which the police commissioner is heard plotting with an executive of the ruling National Patriotic Party the removal of the Inspector General of Police, Dr. George Ekufu Dampare. The police commissioner, who is said to be retiring, is heard telling the politicians that the IGP is too firm and will not allow machinations in next year's polls if he is not removed. He further notes that the nature of security the IGP providing during the Asen North by-election shows he will not allow any rigging in the place. And they are saying that is not true. That is 100% true. Because bringing in the personnel, their personnel to the place, what happens is that at the police stations, they are there, they are saying to it, and therefore you cannot go around those who snatch ballot boxes or those who try to do all sorts. Those machinations there will not be able to do so, and therefore they don't like it. But I think it's a situation or a case where I think that there should be a proper probe into it, and then we find out exactly what has happened. 8 minutes to the top of the hour at a time. Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Remember, this evening exactly at 18 hours BST, or 16 hours if you are in Nigeria. Yes, GMT. That is okay. My apologies. That's 18 hours BST, and if you are in other parts of the world, it is GMT +1. That is 18 hours. That is 17 hours. Okay, that's 6 p.m. I'm all getting muzzled up there. All right then. So make sure you join Olayomi Koiki for him to bring you more on that front. Now, North Korea has fired a suspected intercontinental ballistic missile. Japanese and South Korea officials have reported the long-range missile flew for more than an hour before landing short of Japanese waters on Wednesday morning. Now, Pyongyang's launch comes after it threatened retaliation against what it said were recent U.S. spy plane incursions over its territory. Really? Okay. It's saying that earlier this week, it threatened to shoot down such planes. Now, Washington has dismissed the accusation, saying its military patrols are in line with international laws. Now, security concerns have ramped up on the peninsula this year after North Korea tested new weapons. The country also conducted a record number of missile launches in 2022, including one capable of reaching U.S. territory. In response, the U.S. and South Korea have increased their joint military drills around the peninsula. Now, the question is, you go to the country and you see people, citizens in that country, majority of them are hungry, starving. The job that they have to do, I call them the synchronized, or I call them unanimous nation. They all support what is going on. Somebody asked you the question, really? Don't they have a mind of their own? But well, the only that thing that the West way forward for them, or for their voices to be heard, is by unleashing weapons. And that's one of the things that they are doing, testing this one as well. So would that bring America to the table and say, guy, come, let's talk? Or with what is happening in Ukraine at the moment, it's taking them out of the center page or the center stage and just push them into the corner, and therefore they want to do something to get them back there. What do you think about all that? It's all coming your way from Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Well, closer than ever, NATO, but timeline not laid out is a story about Ukraine's chances of joining NATO. Now, NATO boss Jens Stoltenberg says that Ukraine is closer to NATO than ever before during a news conference with President Zelensky. He says the accession process is being shortened and Ukraine will become a member, but does not specify a timeline. Now, on Tuesday, Zelensky criticized NATO for what he sees as delays in setting out Ukraine's membership timeline. Now, Zelensky said it was unprecedented and absurd that Ukraine did not have more details on when it could become a NATO member. And as I did say yesterday, it's the same explanation that most experts are putting across, that they don't want to, that NATO doesn't want to get involved in the war that is going on at the moment, because in their rules, if a country is going through war at the moment, they cannot be added to it. So there should be some sort of peace or something, or a few things put together before they are allowed in. But they're saying that they are closer to being a NATO member than before. Okay, so let's see what happens there. Now, I find a story from here. Mortgage payments set to jump by £500 for 1 million households. Are you one of them? The mortgage payments will rise by at least £500 a month for nearly 1 million households between the end of this year and 2026. The Bank of England has said 2026. The households and firms have been under pressure as interest rates have risen in a bid to lower high inflation. In a report, the bank said mortgage holders may struggle with repayments on loans, but it said lenders are strong enough to withstand a rise in customers defaulting on repayments. The bank has said the bank has raised interest rates from 0.1% in December 2021 to 5% to keep rising prices. Expectations that borrowing costs might rise even further has pushed up mortgage rates. On Wednesday, the average rate on a 2-year fixed mortgage hit a fresh 15-year high of 6.7%, according to Money Facts, the Financial Information Service. The Bank of England said in its twice yearly financial stability report that a fixed rate mortgage deal expires and people renew their loans, mortgage repayment will go up. And I can tell you, even insurance is going up as well. Now, more than 2 million households will pay between 200 and 499 more per month from the end of this year and the end of 2026, it warned. A further 1 million mortgage holders will see their monthly payment rise by at least 500 over the next 2.5 years. In the shorter term, the average household coming off a fixed rate deal in the second half of 2023 will have to pay about £220 more a month if they refinance at current rates. This is all coming your way from Starr Radio UK. It's been a pleasure coming your way once again. We'll be taking you to the House of Parliament for the Prime Minister's question time. But for now, enjoy this music while I line you all up for the PMQ. It's been me, Archie, and I say have a top of the day. Bye-bye for now.
The problem of Africa is the elite. Africa. Who run things, who run things, who run things. The problem of Africa is the elite. Africa. Who run things, who run things, who run things. Them all go to universities. Universities award them degrees. Big degrees. Degrees. Big degrees. MSc in stealing. Bachelor of Arts, mismanagement. Another degree.
This is Starr Radio. This is Starr Radio UK.
MSc in corruption, Bachelor of Science in nepotism. MSc.
Thanks for listening.
Bachelor love us in indiscipline, MSc in embezzlement. The problem of Africa is daily. Who run
stigma and help women to seek treatment.
My honourable friend raises a really important point, and that is why we have recently published the Gambling White Paper. In that, we address a number of the issues my honourable friend raises. Stigma is a very important one. We want people to come forward and get the treatment that they need, and we're also introducing a statutory levy on gambling operators to ensure that we have the research, the prevention and treatment that is needed to help those suffering with gambling harm.
Sarah Gray.
Earlier this year, the government cut almost £6 million worth of funding to a Save the Children programme providing education and other services to girls in Afghanistan, despite a promise to put women and girls at the heart of the FCDO's work. Will the Secretary of State work with colleagues at the FCDO to deliver on the government's commitment and reinstate this funding?
I thank the Honourable Lady for her question. Educating girls is one of the top priorities under the British government's international development strategy. Indeed, Mr. Speaker, it is the way you change the world. And I can tell her that over the last 5 years for which figures are available, the British taxpayer procured a decent education for more than 8 million children in the poor world.
That completes questions. We come to questions to the Deputy Prime Minister. I call Stephen Bonner on a closed question.
Question number one, Mr. Speaker.
Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I have been asked to reply. Global oil prices have remained largely stable this year. This has not changed following the announcement of additional production cuts by Saudi Arabia and Russia. We expect the impact of the cuts will be mitigated by the increase in supply from other producers and a decrease in global oil demand, as we have seen previously.
Stephen Bonner.
Speaker, if we want to insulate ourselves from future price rises, then we need to invest in a greener future. The United States gets it. They've committed $370 billion on net zero energies. The EU, they get it. They're set to match that figure. And in Scotland, we get it. We have the ambition to lead the world on renewable energy. We have the energy, but we do not have the power. So why is Westminster trying to block Scotland's path to a safer, greener future?
Deputy Prime Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, we of course will continue to invest in renewables, but I would say to the party opposite, we should also invest in our energy independence, and that means investing in the North Sea. If we fail to invest in the North Sea, we'll be more reliant on foreign producers and we will have higher carbon emissions as we import from elsewhere.
Craig McKinley.
Question 2, Mr. Speaker.
Deputy Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my right honourable friend, the Prime Minister, is in Vilnius attending the NATO summit. This summit is an opportunity to build on the work we have done over the past year, strengthening NATO and supporting Ukraine. Mr. Speaker, in addition to my meetings in this House, I shall have further such meetings later today.
McKinley.
Mr. Speaker, New Labour's old mantra used to be education, education, education. Its new one seems to be tax education, tax education, tax education. Does the Deputy Prime Minister share my disgust at Labour's plans to tax education and choice, which could lead to 40,000 pupils being sent into the state sector with the cost to the taxpayer? I have a number of English language schools in my constituency, and they are concerned that this will apply to them as well as tuition, out-of-hours tuition, and sports training additionally. Does the Deputy Prime Minister object to these measures as strongly as I do?
Deputy Prime Minister.
Yes, well, once again, we have seen from the Labour Party them putting the politics of envy above the interests of children in this country. And as my honourable friend rightly highlights, Recent analysis shows this could lead to over 40,000 pupils leaving the schools they're in, placing further burdens on existing schools and costing £300 million.
We now come to the Deputy Leader of the Opposition, Angela Rayner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I know you're a keen historian, so I looked up the last time a Prime Minister missed 2 sessions in a row with other engagements, which was March 1996. And I'm very proud to be filling the boots of Lord John Prescott. But I think it's safe to say he's no Heseltine, Mr. Speaker. Why is it, John Prescott asked, that in Tory Britain, tens of thousands of families are facing repossession, negative equity and homelessness? And can he tell us, 27 years later, why I'm having to ask the same question?
Deputy Prime Minister.
Well, clearly the Right Honourable Lady did not listen to my previous comments. The Prime Minister is at NATO. Of course, that wouldn't be a problem if she'd had her way. Her old boss wanted to abandon Ukraine, abolish the army, and withdraw from NATO, and he certainly wouldn't be going to any summit, Mr. Speaker. When it comes to house building, I will take no lectures from the party opposite on home ownership. My parents would not have been able to buy their own home if it were not for Margaret Thatcher and the reforms introduced by her government, and this government is building on those with record house building.
Mr. Speaker, I think he's taking lessons from the former Prime Minister on telling the facts. The last Labour government worked hard to dramatically reduce the number of children in temporary accommodation. Yeah. But under the Tories, the number of homeless children has risen by 75%. I'm proud of our record on tackling child poverty. Does the Right Honourable Gentleman feel ashamed of his?
Deputy Prime Minister.
I'll tell you what this government has done. We've lifted 400,000 children out of child poverty. We have introduced the national living wage, something the party opposite totally failed to do, and increased the national living wage by the largest amount ever, meaning £1,800 for working people, and cutting their taxes by doubling the personal allowance. That is the surest way to ensure we lift people out of poverty, and would never have happened with the party opposite.
Angela Rayner.
Mr. Speaker, it's like the ghost of Prime Minister past is still here. And I tell the Right Honourable Gentleman that he should be careful about the stats they use, because the Children's Commissioner warned the other Prime Minister about peddling false narrative on child poverty around those figures. The truth is, rising bills and soaring mortgages and plummeting real wages are pushing more and more families to the brink. Those already struggling are being hit hardest by the Tory mortgage bombshell and rising food costs. So can he tell us how many primary school children have been pushed into poverty since his government took power?
Deputy Prime Minister.
I would say to the Right Honourable Lady, it is this party, not the party opposite, which extended free school meals to all 5, 6 and 7-year-olds, something the party opposite failed to do, and it sits alongside many measures we are taking to help people with the cost of living. We are paying half of families' energy bills last winter, funded by our 75% windfall tax, freezing fuel duty, helping families with childcare, and delivering on our pledge to reduce the debt. It may come as a surprise to the Right Honourable Lady, but balancing the books means more than working out how many more millions to take from her union paymasters.
Mr. Speaker, once again, he talks about balancing the books. His party crashed the economy. And he seems to be completely oblivious to what it's like for working people in this country at the moment. New research out today shows that 400,000 more primary school-aged children are growing up in poverty since his government came to office. Why does he think that is?
Deputy Prime Minister.
I would take absolutely no lectures whatsoever from the party opposite about how we help children in the most need. It is record investment from this government in education, £2 billion more this year, £2 billion next year, which is giving those very children the best possible start in life, ensuring that we have the highest reading standards in the Western world. And I have to say to the Honourable Lady, listen, her leader says he hates tree huggers. They seem very keen on hugging that magic money tree.
Angela Rayner.
Mr. Speaker, he doesn't even acknowledge it, let alone explain why child poverty is rising. What hope has he got of solving it? So let me try a simpler question for him. How many kids don't have a permanent address today compared to when Labour left office in 2010?
Deputy Prime Minister.
We can exchange all these numbers across the dispatch box. Mr. Speaker, these are the numbers that matter. There are 1.7 million fewer people in absolute poverty under this government. 400,000 fewer children, 200,000 fewer pensioners, and 1 million fewer people of working age, because the single best route out of poverty is a job, and record numbers of people, 4 million more people under this government have got a job. That is the difference between this party and the party opposite, who always leave office with unemployment higher.
Angela Rayner.
Mr. Speaker, what matters is what people feel every single day at the moment, who are going to work and can't afford their mortgage, can't afford their rent and can't afford their bills because of this Conservative government. There are 55,000 more children without a permanent address today compared to when they took office 13 years ago. We've gone from a Labour cabinet focused on tackling child poverty to Tory ministers who won't even admit the problem. Just like the Question Time in March 1996, they can only offer excuses and not answers. Lord John Prescott said to Lord Michael Heseltine that day, "How can the right honourable gentleman be so complacent in the face of sheer misery created by his government's policies? 27 years on, why are we asking the exact same thing?"
A little bit more if we carry on. Come on, Deputy Prime.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I know there's a reshuffle coming up on the other side, but this audition for John Prescott's old job is just getting a little bit hackneyed. It is this government that has lifted 400,000 children out of poverty. The party opposite, I hear the right lady, claiming to be the party of working people, but under their policies, people can't even get to work. They support Just Stop Oil protesters blocking our roads. They support their union paymasters stopping our trains. And of course, they support the hated ULEZ stopping cars across our capital. While Conservatives get Britain moving, Labour are standing in everyone's way.
Mr. Speaker. Given the Mansion House Compact does not encourage our pension funds to invest specifically in British companies, what more can the government do to encourage greater investment in our companies, especially the climate technology startups, which are increasingly going abroad to find the funding they require to the benefit of our competitors?
Deputy Prime Minister.
Well, I think my honourable friend raises a very important point about both start-up capital and ensuring that we get more money to high-growth companies. I would say that the Chancellor's Pension Compact is a very important step forward and will unlock £75 billion of additional investment. I'm quite confident large amounts of that will go to UK companies, and that sits alongside measures such as the Edinburgh reforms to financial services, again, which will help improve financial services in this country and unlock money for those industries.
SNP Deputy Leader Murray Black.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last month, the Deputy Prime Minister dismissed warnings from these benches that mortgage rates were nearly back to where they were after the disastrous mini-budget. This week, mortgage rates have surpassed those levels. How high do they need to go until he and his government takes it seriously?
Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the Honourable Lady knows, people around the world know, that the driver of higher mortgage rates is higher inflation. And higher inflation is caused by Russia's invasion of Ukraine and the post-COVID supply chains. But what we have to do is make sure we halve inflation. It's only by getting inflation under control that we will be able to get mortgage rates down, and that requires discipline. Discipline on spending, discipline on public sector pay, and discipline on energy supply, all of which is lacking from that party.
Murray Black.
Predict that mortgage payments will rise by at least £500 for 1 million households. The Prime Minister says that people need to hold their nerve. The Chancellor said just last night that mortgage holders should just shop around. Speaking of his own party, the member for South West Devon said, if the circus doesn't stop by Christmas, it's over. Does the Deputy Prime Minister understand that people can't afford to wait until Christmas and that they need help right now?
Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the fundamental thing we have to do is to halve inflation. That is an approach that the IMF, quote, strongly endorses, because higher inflation drives higher mortgage rates. But that's not all we are doing. With the mortgage charter, signed up by 90% of mortgage providers, we are giving people help to extend their terms, to go interest only, and to reduce their monthly payments. Now, that action is supported by Martin Lewis, a real money-saving expert, unlike the big spenders on those benches.
Stevenson.
Last year I visited Abbeyfield House in Wentzfield, and I was impressed by this model of assisted living for older people that gave them the independence of a self-contained flat but the ability to eat and socialise together. I was deeply concerned to hear that a consultation is underway to close the Abbeyfield House in Wentzfield, and I went back to speak to older people. They unanimously want to stay there. Abbeyfield is a charity. His Majesty the King has been patron for 40 years now. It cannot meet the cost of updating the estate to meet environmental standards. Will my right honourable friend meet with me to see what support government can offer to Abbeyfield so that my residents don't have to leave the homes they love?
Well, Mr. Speaker, of course, I'm very happy to give my honourable friend that assurance. I would note that we have provided £7.5 billion of additional funding for social care and discharge, and specifically on energy. We have got an energy advice service to support smaller businesses, and we'll be piloting new audit and grant schemes which may also help.
Ed Davey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In January, Emily booked an appointment with her local dentist in Chard, Somerset, for the 14th of June, only to be told by a neighbour at the end of May that the surgery had closed in April. Emily no longer has a dentist. All the remaining surgeries aren't taking on any new patients. Emily doesn't know what to do. So can the Deputy Prime Minister tell Emily and millions of people like her, when can they get an appointment with a local NHS dentist?
Deputy Prime Minister.
Well, the right honourable gentleman may have missed, but our NHS workforce plan is investing an extra £2.4 billion into training and retaining crucial NHS staff, including dentists and GPs. And actually, the number of dentists will rise by 40%. And I would say to people across that constituency that the best way they can ensure better services for their NHS is to vote for Faye Purbrick, the Conservative candidate.
Charles. Mr. Speaker, could the Deputy Prime Minister let us know when we can expect allocations from the Levelling Up Fund round 3? And when it comes, will it be true to the Prime Minister's pledge that all parts of the country will benefit, including the South East and most particularly the very deserving town of Andover?
Deputy Prime Minister.
Well, as well as being an excellent minister, I know how committed my right honourable friend is to the town of Andover. We will shortly be announcing the new approach to the third round, and further details of this approach will follow shortly.
Pete Wishart.
Mr. Speaker, there's some things you encounter in political life that's certain to horrify, appall, or sicken you. But I don't think I've ever seen anything quite so grotesque as the painting over of Mickey Mouse on a children's mural, as was done by the Home Office in a detention centre in Kent. Now, no minister so far has roused the necessary compassion or concern to speak out about this. So can I ask the Deputy Prime Minister to look into the deeper recesses of his soul and just simply condemn it?
Deputy Prime Minister.
I'll tell the honourable gentleman what real compassion looks like, and that means stopping the vile people smuggling trade across the Channel, condemning women and children to death. This government is taking action to deal with it with our Stop the Boats bill, and that party shamefully 18 times last night voted against it.
Bartholomew.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you. On these benches, we know, as the party of aspiration, the importance of home ownership. According to a recent estimate by Barclays Bank, it now takes an average of 8 years for the average first-time buyer to save for a deposit. And in parts of London and the South East, it can be longer than that. What is the Deputy Prime Minister and the government doing in order to improve the prospects for younger people who want to own their own homes?
Prime Minister.
Well, I know what a passionate champion of this issue my honourable friend is. It is actually the case that almost 850,000 households have been helped purchase a home since 2010. And actually in 2021, the number of people getting onto the property ladder for the first time was at a 20-year high, thanks to initiatives such as First Homes and the Help to Buy scheme. Of course, that stands in contrast to the party opposite, who oversaw the lowest level of house building since the 1920s.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With rising ticket prices, many of my constituents find they can get the best value fare by going to the staff ticket office at Lancaster Station. It's perhaps why so many of them have signed my petition to save staffing at Lancaster Station. So can I ask the Deputy Prime Minister, is the closure of ticket offices just yet another cost of living bombshell hitting my hard-working constituents?
Deputy Prime Minister.
Well, it is important that the railways continue to reform after the record amount of money that we gave them during COVID. I would gently say to the honourable lady that if she's concerned about her constituents getting anywhere on the railways, she should condemn the totally unjustified strikes which close them down week after week.
Give forward.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. 4 summers ago, the unprecedented climate change-driven heatwave caused irreparable damage to Chelmsford's flyover. And since then, people from all across Essex have been stuck in Chelmsford, traffic jams, wasting time, hitting our economic growth. We badly need a new junction at the Army and Navy, but the funding decision has been stuck in Whitehall. So will my right honourable friend use his powerful cross-cabinet convening powers to get Treasury and Transport to agree to the money so we can deliver a new junction, stop the traffic jams and get Chelmsford moving again?
Deputy Prime Minister.
Well, I know how powerfully my right honourable friend makes the case for this scheme, and she has done so once again in the Chamber. The Chancellor was sitting next to me and would also have heard the case. I understand that the outline case, business case submitted by Essex County Council is being considered by ministers right now, and all relevant ministers will have heard her injunction.
Gaskell.
Scottish Ambulance Service statistics showed an increase in hypothermic call-outs of over 30% across Scotland last winter and a staggering 84% in the north in December. Whilst fuel calls have fallen slightly, food and other costs have risen exponentially. To end the perversity of energy-rich Scotland seeing 1/3 of Scots in fuel poverty and literally freezing, when will the government bring in a social tariff to ensure that the poor and vulnerable can get through this winter without calling out the ambulance service because they're freezing?
Deputy Prime Minister.
Well, as my right honourable friend, the Chancellor, set out in the autumn statement, we are exploring the best approach to consumer protection from April 2024 as part of wider retail market reforms. I would just reiterate to the honourable gentleman that this winter we paid half of energy bills in Scotland. That was thanks to the strength of our union.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I remind the Deputy Prime Minister and the House that yesterday was National Remembering Srebrenica Day? But may I particularly point out a little-known fact? The British soldiers took out about 2,000 civilians in April 1993 from Srebrenica. Those British soldiers were B Squadron, the 9th 12th Lancers, not widely known, but those 2,000 people from B Squadron were actually under my command, and they saved a huge number of lives by taking them out, and they too should be remembered for their very gallant actions, because it was very dangerous.
Deputy Prime Minister.
Well, I pay tribute to my right honourable and gallant friend and to all of those who he commanded in the 1990s. We must honour the memory of those killed and pay tribute to the extraordinary courage shown by their families, by survivors and all those members of our armed forces who served so gallantly in that situation.
Williams.
In the Welsh Affairs Committee, my honourable friend for Ceredigion